All right, thanks so much for joining me, you guys.
Thank you. It's a great pleasure being here.
I saw Red Lights, loved it, I thought it was great. You did a great job. Cillian, you were great also. I wanted to ask you, Cillian, you worked with some great directors in the past. I wondered how Rodrigo stacked up.
Pretty well, I have to say. Well, he is sitting beside me, but still, pretty well.
Yeah, pressure's on.
You know, I've always enjoyed working with writer-directors as well, because, you know, the material comes from his brain, he's lived with it, and, you know, you can get direct access to the material if you sort of need to talk about stuff. But in terms of working with Rodrigo, you know, it's very unusual to have someone arrive sort of so fully formed as Rodrigo did, when, you know, because he writes and directs and edits to such a high level. It's very rare to find that someone as gifted in all three areas. And for me, working as a performer, you know, when you're confident in the director's vision and you know that they know what they want, then you feel safe and you feel really willing to push yourself and to take risks and to try things that you might not have tried before, and certainly that was the case on this. So yeah, it was a real joy, and the pace we worked at, and we shot in Spain with this amazing Spanish crew. It was a very immersive, intense experience, but also, like, you know, one of the happiest shoots I've ever been on.
Cool. And Rodrigo, you're a young director.
Hopefully.
Wondered what directors you look to as inspiration.
Well, probably my pagan god since I was a kid would be Scorsese. I remember that when I probably was 13 or 14, I saw my first Scorsese film, at least consciously. It was The Color of Money, and I was blown away. Then I saw After Hours, and then once I learned his surname, I started to find all his material. Of course, then I saw Taxi Driver and Regis, and I still didn't know how to describe it, but I thought that it was more cinema than what others did. There was something that had to do with the pure nature of filmmaking, with the kind of energy and violence that I didn't see before, and that could only happen in that medium, not in the writing or not in the theater or something like that. And of course, Hitchcock and Kubrick, and if we go to the old days, Ace Stein and Buster Keaton, Billy Wilder, if we talk more about the writing. I mean, these titles that you have so many things to learn from.
Right. Great. So, Cillian, you take quite a beating in Red Lights in one scene. I wonder if you could just talk about the physicality of the role a little bit.
Yeah, I've always enjoyed that aspect of making films. You know, when you get to do the physical side of it, it's great fun. And there is this one sequence in the film which is a fight in a bathroom, and we shot it right at the end of the shooting in Barcelona, and we shot it over 2 days. It was like heavily choreographed and rehearsed, and like Rodrigo knew exactly what he wanted, but I enjoy that very much. And you know, I think it's a very important scene in the film. I mean, it is very violent, but the violence has a place in the narrative and in Tom's journey. And I think it's just so exquisitely directed, that fight scene. It never fails to make people wince watching it. And you know, you do as much as I've always tried to do as much of the physical stuff myself that they'll allow me to do, and I've always enjoyed it. So we had fun making that scene for sure, I think.
Cool. Yeah. Well, since you mentioned Scorsese, I could see the violence really come out in that scene particularly. Was that conscious to make it kind of very violent, or were you trying to keep it in rhythm with the rest of the film, or was it kind of a chance to just go overboard?
Now, to me, it's difficult to talk about it without revealing certain things that we shouldn't talk about. So this is a delicate moment. So that's what I'm trying to find the right words. But the ending of the film is not possible without that scene. I mean that things have to happen there in a very brutal way. In a way, in order to allow something new to rebirth, you need to destroy the old one. So it's a very, very crucial moment. And actually there's a moment even in which you should think that it's too violent, that no human being could stand that or hold it. And then probably you will find out that there's a reason for that, and that there's an explanation for that. But in a way, this is a point, a crucial point. I mean, you see, for instance, the final duel. At the end, we have a final duel in the third act. And in a conventional film, probably would be with two characters flying and throwing rays of energy and floating over the theater or something like that, having a great climax. And we wanted to have that energy, but in a spoken way, in a way. Keeping that energy in another way. But I needed one of the characters to appear totally destroyed, almost dead, with not 1 inch of the program that he could have before, ready for another thing. So that's the reason. I always try to keep a storytelling perspective for every decision.
Cool. Great. So, Cillian, you're part of a great line of Irish actors. Can you talk about the influence of Richard Harris, Liam Neeson on your career?
Sure. I mean, I guess those guys kind of they paved the way for my generation. You know, people like Richard Harris and Liam Neeson and Brendan Gleeson and Gabriel Byrne, and those guys are extraordinary actors who made a name for themselves in America, but still retained very much the connection to Ireland and making films at home in Ireland. And I've had the pleasure of working with some of those guys, and they've been so sort of supportive of me and my contemporaries, and it's a small island, and so it's a small community, and you don't see each other that often, but I have great affection for them.
Cool, great. Rodrigo, you've done 2 scripts now on parapsychology. What's your interest in the subject?
Well, it's funny because actually both came from the same root. It's not that I'm interested in just writing about the same thing again and again and again. Mm-hmm. It, in a way, has to do with the deep research I needed to do for Red Lights. I got tons of material, literally 1,000 notebooks full of notes. And of course, you cannot put everything in Red Lights. And actually, even certain things that happened in the first version, the first draft of Red Lights, couldn't make it because there was no room for everything. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to use that somehow. It happened in a very natural way. So I immediately invented another story, much more straightforward, that was in a way the other side of the coin. Actually, it's a very low budget movie that happens in 3 days and 3 nights. And instead of having debunkers, we have 3 parapsychologists in this case, a multidisciplinary team of meta-psychic investigation. So both come from the same root in a way. But what I'm interested in of this, more than the facts themselves, is the way they affect people's psychologies and people's beliefs, which is what really interests me. I mean, I love the set pieces and action, but they have to come out from the characters. I love character-driven scripts. And you have a perfect background because it's so fascinating. It talks about the unknown, it keeps the mystery, and you have many opportunities to be cinematical with it. But it's not a world I would personally find answers in.
Yeah, it's a compelling film subject. Have you seen the South Park on, are you a fan of South Park at all?
Yeah. Totally.
Have you seen the parapsychology one?
No.
No, with John Edward?
I would love to.
Well, you gotta see it. I thought it was an inspiration for Red Lights.
Yeah.
You gotta check that out.
I'm afraid. I'm so sorry it wasn't. I wish it was.
Yeah.
No, I haven't seen it. But I love South Park, so I have to see it.
Yeah, check it out. It's called The Biggest Douche in the Universe. It's a great title. Alright, so Cillian, I know there's no Scarecrow in The Dark Knight Rises, but I wondered if I could slip in a Batman question. Have you ever worn the Batsuit?
Yes, it's well known. I auditioned for the role back in the day with a number of other actors, and we all got to wear a batsuit. I think it was like Val Kilmer's batsuit or something.
Oh, really?
So it was a few sizes too big for me. But
I have to see that.
nobody has ever seen that footage. But yeah, that was a pure privilege, and I got to work with. That was the first time I kind of worked with Chris Nolan, kind of briefly, and I don't know. He, I knew I wasn't really Batman material, I guess, and but he saw something in it, and I got the opportunity to work with him. It's great.
Cool. Alright guys, well thanks so much. Really enjoyed Red Lights. Good luck with everything.
Thanks
Thanks a lot for everything. Great
Thank you.
pleasure.
Great to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Alright.